Happy Halloween, brave adventurers. Hey guys. Oh dear. Happy Halloween. This is I, your host, Eric's UK, back with another Games I Have Played vid. I thought I'd dress up, as it being Halloween. Ooh. Why not? It's a bit of fun. Today I'm talking about a board game, or a couple of board games, Halloween themed in a way. Arkham Horror and its sequel Eldritch Horror. Arkham Horror is a game originally published by Chaosium, the publishers of Call of Cthulhu, back in the late 80s, and I had an original copy. It ended up suffering some water damage in the end of being binned. What was the pity? Oh, this has made a right mess of my hair, hasn't it? And Arkham Horror is a game based on the Lovecraftian universe and is set in the town of Arkham, Massachusetts, some point in the 1920s. And the players are playing cooperatively to beat the game, while the game is trying to drive them mad, kill them, and release some ancient great old one from its prison hidden in other dimensions or beneath the sea. The original version was awful. It really was. It wasn't even on like proper card. It was almost like flimsy paper. All the playing pieces. You kept track of things with like little cheap plastic bits. I think I only ever actually played it once or twice because it was that naff. And I didn't know that it had been redone until probably about, I want to say about 15 years ago, when a guy that had come to our gaming group, our game store rather, had got Arkham Horror, now published by Fantasy Flight Games. And if you know Fantasy Flight Games, you know they are one of the masters of board games. I'm not a big board game fan myself, partly because I'm not competitive. I don't enjoy trying to face off against other players. So the idea of a board game that A, was Cthulhu Lovecraftian based, and B, was cooperative, was an absolute sort of moment for me. And FFG had taken this game, built on it, and basically put it out as one of it probably goes as my top board game ever. You had a really nice board, loads of cards. They added a little bit more complexity to it, which is what I think it needed. And essentially, it was the same game. You work together playing these investigators in order to travel the board, find clues, have encounters at various Lovecraftian locations within the town, and hopefully you were either able to stop these gates opening and monsters coming out in time enough to stop the Ancient One arising. If you fail to do it, you lost the game. The world ends, essentially. Over the next few years, they released a slew of expansions. They range from small card-based ones to I think three extra boards. You ended up with Dunwich, Innsmouth and Kingsport. With these expansions, you got new characters, obviously new cards, new monsters. You got a combat deck in one of them that actually meant that when the Ancient One rose up and burst free from its prison, you didn't automatically lose the game. You got to properly fight it. And this was hard, but it gave you one last chance to try and stop it. The Dunwich board, quite interesting. You have to travel to these other locations by rail, or have some other means within the game, often a card effect, that lets you travel there. And Dunwich sort of gave you various locations again from Lovecraft's novels, and added a slightly more difficult sitch to the game, because now you had to control gates opening and monsters and events on 2 boards. Innsmouth was an odd one. Innsmouth and Kingsport, when they did these, were very odd. Because Innsmouth and Kingsport never really seemed to do anything. There were a couple of locations on the Kingsport board that you got cards for that could be really beneficial. But we soon sort of learned that you could kind of ignore what happens in Kingsport. Nothing major sort of happens that's going to really screw you over. Innsmouth, on the other hand, was kind of in the middle. It was worth going there, but it was quite a dangerous little board. And again, it didn't shift enough focus away from the main board to be too much of a threat. But it added the options. And I loved Arkham Horror. The best thing about it as well, other than the fact that it's cooperative, is you can play it solo. So if you've got nobody else to play it with, you can pick 4 characters or a character, and you can just play the game against the game yourself. And anytime FFG quite like doing this on a few other things. The Lord of the Rings card game again, which was another one that I was a fan of, was soloable. In fact, I think it works slightly better solo, but I'll come to that in another vid. And we used to do Arkham Horror a couple of nights a year, maybe slightly more if we really fancied it, but we always used to do it on Halloween. We're not this year, mainly because this weekend I'm not feeling well. We should have been our roleplay night tonight, but I'm not feeling very well, so we're not risking it. But we haven't really played Arkham Horror for a while, COVID not counting. And one of the reasons for that is the guys got really into the sequel game, which is Eldritch Horror. And instead of being focused on the town of Arkham and its immediate environments, Eldritch Horror gave you a world board. So you were not just focused in one town, you were travelling the globe on a much larger scale. And you I can't remember exactly what the victory conditions were on that one, but it was very similar. It was kind of like Arkham Horror Take 2. Some of the little things that, well, I won't say anything didn't work in Arkham Horror, but there were a few things that needed tweaking and never got done. They kind of fixed that with this. And they did release a couple other boards, if I remember correctly. I think there was an Antarctic board, and I forget the other one. That's going to bug me now. But it was a much more, I was going to say much more story-driven game. But yeah, in a way, I think it is, because you have a specific story you're telling with that one, I think based on the ancient one that's coming up. Whereas Arkham Horror, you tell the story just effectively through the cards. And the guys kind of preferred that one for some reason. I ultimately sort of like lost a little bit of interest in it, because I kind of felt that it didn't do the same thing for me that Arkham Horror did. They were kind of 2 very different games, even though they were based on the same basis. And I ended up selling Eldritch Horror to one of the guys in the club, because I would rather play Arkham Horror. Since then, I believe Arkham Horror has come out with let's call it a 3rd edition. I've not really looked into it. I've seen some photos of the board pieces and other things, and it seems like they've really changed the nature of the beast, to the point that just from what I have seen, it doesn't interest me. Plus, I've got the version that I like. I'm going to stick with it. If you're a fan of the Lovecraftian thing, like I am, and you like board games, and especially if you like cooperative ones, Arkham Horror is a fantastic game. Eldritch Horror as well, don't let me put you off that one. They're both really good games. They're great for pulling out. They do take an evening to play. They're not quick, simple games. They do take a while, but you will never have the same experience twice, just by the sheer random effects on the cards. By that I mean how you draw them. Each card has different locations, so you're rarely ever going to get the same event happen each time. And certainly, as I say, Arkham Horror is up there as probably my #1 favourite board game, especially for this time of year. You can't go wrong with a bit of Lovecraftian Cthulhuid niceness over Halloween. So if you haven't played Arkham Horror, I recommend you check it out. Even if it's the new version that FFG have put out, give it a wibble. It's a really good game. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. I hope you have a happy Halloween. If you enjoyed the vid, please give me a like and hit that subscribe button, ring the little bell. It helps the channel. I'd like to know your experiences of Arkham Horror, and also what are your favourite horror / Halloween themed board games that you play? What's your favourite? Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Take care, have a happy and safe Halloween, and I'll see you in the next vid. Take care. Good gaming.